Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khair for tuning in. Jazakumullahu khair, Ridwanullah family, for tuning in to another episode of Ridwanullah Global TV. I'm your host, your source for Islamic personal and professional development. I'm your host and life maximizer, Hussein Mahmoud, working to help you maximize every single area of your life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, owner, and sustainer, the one who's worthy of all worship, all praise, without any partners or associations or intermediaries. And may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon the most esteemed leader and most honorable teacher, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who follow him into the day of judgment. In today's episode, if you struggle with money, freedom and wealth and everything else in between that and around that, then today's episode is right for you, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. You know, we underestimate money. And I'm asking you right now, do you underestimate your money in terms of your freedom and wealth? And the reason why I bring that up is because there's been a lot of thoughts in my mind right now, and everything else that's going on with Ramadan coming up fairly soon. You know what I mean? Like the responsibilities, being, stuck in the rat race, the 9-to-5 grind. And you know what I mean? So many elements, that go along with, freedom and wealth, is going to be, an important element. As you can see right now, I've tried to open the window a little bit. It's kind of hot here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Just kind of been up and about and kind of, alhamdulillah, being as productive as I possibly could be. You could probably tell that I'm putting in work, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. And this is just the beginning of the work that I'm putting in, that I hope that you guys will be putting in as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So, just to share with you, in terms of the situation that I find myself in and the observation that I've noticed in terms of our deen, our dunya, and everything else in between, all of those elements. I'm starting to realize the importance of money. And I don't mean it in a way that, you know what I mean, we should let it distract us from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't mean it in a way that we should make that our ultimate aim, our end goal. And I don't mean it in a sense that, you know what I mean, like we should value money more than what it is, you know what I mean? But what I've realized is the impact that money has in our individual lives as human beings, and more particularly in our ummah, is mind-boggling to me, is baffling. And I really, really hope that if I could share with you just a little bit in terms of the realization that I came up with in terms of money and the focus that is due to particularly the money as a means to the end, which is pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya and in the akhirah, is unprecedented, especially in our times of the global economy and how things are being connected with the online businesses, and technology just growing at light speed, and going at light speed is amazing to me. So, for me, as I continue to work towards maximizing the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by maximizing every single area of my life, by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I realize more and more there's this hurdle that no matter what you do, you have to master and maximize, which is money. You know what I mean? Like, statistics show that the #1 reason why people have marital problems and family issues and divorces is because of money. Their lack of understanding of the blueprint of their money, their money blueprint, and their behavior that is leading to the delinquency or the lack of control financially is one thing that has been an issue that's, been throughout time. So, the quick story that I want to share with you is about 3-4 years ago, I did a seminar at one of the local masjids, and it's about how successful people think. And as I was studying the content of that seminar, and I think there was about 10 to 20 individuals, I can't remember exactly, that were there. And, you know, one of the things that I picked up from there is, you know, successful people who think successfully and who are successful have this and that mentality. People who are not successful and to a large degree miserable, they have this or that mentality. What I mean by that is, you know, like, for example, the people that are calling us towards deen, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to downplay that by any means. So don't get me misunderstood, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. I'm trying to get on my serious tip. But what I've realized is, you know, the people who are calling us to the deen and away from this dunya, you know, they downplay to a large degree the reality of this dunya, the reality that we still have to put 40 to 60 hours a week just to be able to live paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that needs to be balanced. Now, the people of the dunya, the people who have made money their end goal, meaning that this is all they're striving for night and day, and they don't pay attention to their deen, you know what I mean, their responsibilities towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the requirement, the spiritual requirement that is required of man from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one thing that we really have to balance. So the conclusion that I came up with and the focus that I've seen is that we really have to focus on our money to be able to live our deen properly. Either we're slaving to money or money is being slave to us. And it takes an enormous amount of time, energy, and effort, which is important to put it in the earliest years of your life rather than the later years, right? There's people who can attest to this who are 50, 60, 70 years old, who are still dead broke, cannot afford a flight from here to there, like majority of us living paycheck to paycheck. So it's important for us to not underestimate money. And you know what I mean? Like, the more I try to maximize my life, the more of the hurdle of money is everywhere, right? I really have to figure out how to, you know, purify my intentions and utmost sincerity for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and doing things for His pleasure only, at the same time dealing with this thing called money, right? To be able to use it and implement it properly and do it in the proper places and the proper amount, to be able to, you know what I mean, maximize every single area of my life through the deen and through this obstacle or opportunity called money. So, you know what I mean? Like, no, there's very little go-to for money issues, money matters, money maximization within our ummah that is of quality and consistency. And I remember when I started this journey, like, I try to downplay the money situation, and I'm like, man, nobody cares about money, or money's not that important. You know what I mean? All these limiting beliefs around money and my relationship to money, and what I've picked up from, you know, family members and society and our ummah, I've realized there's so much limiting belief around money. And I came to the realization that it's not deen or money or dunya or akhirah, it's dunya and akhirah, because you have to go through your dunya in order to be able to get to your akhirah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So with that being said, you know, there's a lot of stories that I could share with you in terms of my observation and how far I've come in terms of my freedom and wealth and my vision of where I want to be. So I'm very, 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 very far away in terms of my vision for my freedom and wealth in my life and every other area of my life and where I am. But I've definitely come a very, very long way. Even though financially and number-wise, it's very small, the emotional freedom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me to gain in terms of freedom and wealth has been an incredible journey, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And there's still a lot for me to learn. And there's still a lot for me to teach to other people. But what I've realized right now is I have little to teach and a lot to learn, but a lot to share with you in terms of my journey and everything else that I've been encountering in terms of freedom and wealth and career, you know, finding the right career. You know, so it's not dunya or akhirah, it's dunya and akhirah. So we really have to go through our dunya and use it properly to get to our akhirah, so we could, you know, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. And, you know, the main important element in finding your freedom and wealth is doing it within the freedom, within the boundaries, rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which I see a lot of people lack. You know, I've had so many conversations. I've had conversations with the director of our departments, about 2-3 departments, or maybe even 4, within, you know, nearly, if not over, $1 billion company. And, you know, there's so much I learned about money, and just to be able to accept where you are, but still be hungry for where you want to be, and being grateful for where you are. So all of these elements that we have in our lives is extremely and extraordinarily important. And obviously you could tell, you know, for me, as I continue to look at as a life maximizer, I've had a lot of experiences in terms of the 7 areas of life, right? Number 1, I've had experiences in helping people with their character and conduct, for I need a lot of help with my character and conduct. I've kind of coached people on their health and fitness. Obviously, I have a lot to talk about. But, you know what I mean? I looked at, you know what I mean, the neatness and abundance that I've personally worked on. I really haven't talked directly at people about it, but I've talked indirectly about it. And then just the family unity and love. I have a lot of experience coaching and consulting people in their marriages. Not a lot in the sense of quantity, but a lot in the sense of quality, in terms of depth and just experiential of work. And then, you know, the freedom and wealth, right? That's like the career, you know, the income, the finance, the saving and investing, the money management, all of these other elements of finances that I'll be focusing a lot of this channel towards, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And also, you know, the ummah unity and love is an important element, which is the 6th element. And last but not least is adventure and fun. You know what I mean? Your retreats, your travel, your social, enjoying so many different areas of life and not being confined to one area. And that's where a lot of the vision is when we think about freedom and wealth. But, you know, there's a quote, I believe Gandhi mentioned, is that be the change that you want to see. And I remember a sheikh from Texas area, I can't remember exact place, probably is Houston, by the name of Sheikh Ahmed Sulabi. If you're watching, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and to everybody, and the beautiful work that you've done, especially when you visited us multiple times in Salt Lake City, Utah. But when I had a private session with him, he told me something that really stuck with me up until this point. He told me, do you remember the time when the ummah was in a battle? And he told me, you know, there's a time when the ummah had to encircle themselves and protect every area. And the Prophet ﷺ has sent individuals, troops or armies to protect each area of the surroundings of Medina. And he told me, you know, in the I can't remember, in Battle of Badr, that there was a group of individuals that were sent to some part of the mountain, and it was a strategic area, and the Prophet ﷺ gave him the command that do not come, even if you see us taking the spoils of war, or, you know, until you're commanded to leave that station. And you know what I mean, like when they thought that the Muslims found victory, and they were so excited they forgot about the commandments that do not come until you're commanded to, and they rushed down, and the enemies broke through that weak link or weak left spot, and they, you know what I mean, I can't remember which exact battle it was, but the Muslims lost that battle. And what I've realized is, he told me, you as an individual, there's a position that you have to choose in your life, and you have to stand guard for the ummah and take and give and make the sacrifice to be able to educate and help the ummah, so forth and so on, and be that, not that weak link in the chain of our ummah, but that strong link in the chain of our ummah. And he made me think a lot, and I'm like, what is that area for me? And up until this point, I'm still trying to figure it out. But what I've realized is our ummah really needs help in terms of our freedom and wealth, in order to strengthen our iman and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that realization, you know what I mean, like there's so many, all these 7 areas that I've mentioned, I'm passionate about all of them, and I eventually want to help our ummah in all of them. But there's a starting point. And for me, I've realized the starting point is the freedom and wealth, the finances, the income, the investments, the net worth. I really have to educate our ummah in that aspect. And I remember one of my close friends was driving a nice car. A couple of months later, I see him driving a beater. And I didn't ask him directly, but I realized that he got rid of it for a reason. I didn't know the reason, but when he told me after I was coaching and consulting him, he told me that it was because he got a car that was on interest, riba. And he didn't know that it was not halal for some reason. Subhana Rabbil Ala, and he's around his 30s. And he told me once he realized that it was truly haram, and he traded in his car, took the loss and took whatever change he had and bought $1,000 car or so. And that made me realize, you know, having the accounting and financial knowledge that I took in the universities, in terms of the classes and courses that I've took in my personal life, and the, you know, the studying that I've did and everything else that I've seen in other people, that some of these were common sense to me, but it wasn't common sense to a lot of people. So, you know what I mean? They take in riba on the houses, their cars, everything else. And I've realized, I really, you know, I wish, you know, there's so many non-Muslims who are teaching us about finance and how to make money and how to make wealth in the proper way, and not being slave to money and letting money be slave to us, and finding that financial peace and freedom. But there's very, very little individuals who are truly practicing their faith, that truly care about keeping themselves within the boundaries, rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and finding that financial time and location freedom and wealth and abundance in life that I can consistently go to. And remembering that quote of Gandhi saying that, be the change that you want to see. If there is no opportunity, you have to be the one who steps up and takes that opportunity and carves within the mind a reference point within our ummah to say, anybody who's in need of, you know, financial, and I'm not, you know, financially certified or anything like that. And I don't know if I ever need to, and I'm going to look into it and take, you know, the necessary classes that I need. But the results is what matters. And I'm going to be, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, as I plan to, helping our ummah with their finances. And, you know what I mean, anybody who's into any of the financial world knows Dave Ramsey. And I want to be the Dave Ramsey in our industry and for our ummah, to be able to guide and shed light in this world of finance. You know what I mean, the zakah, the riba, the income, the net worth, the assets, the liabilities, all of these may be new terms to you if you're not into finance, like accounting, you know what I mean, the 4 financials, so many different elements that we can think about and learn about and study. It's important for us to realize it, because if we don't take advantage and control of this area of our lives, we'll be forever stuck in this necessity cycle of working to survive, working to life, you know, the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, and it's very painful. You know what I mean? Anybody who's been through any pain financially understands how painful it is. You can downplay it as much as you want. You can let it go as much as you want. But we all know how much we are struggling with finances, how much our parents are struggling with finances, and how much our family members, our loved ones, our community, our businesses, our masjids, our organizations, and every family and individual within our ummah are struggling with their money and how to deal with it properly. And you know what I mean? When is the right time? When is the greedy part? When is this and when is that? You know what I mean? It's important. Wallahi, it's so important for us to take control of our money. And I'm recording this outside of Masjid Medina right now. We just prayed Dhuhr. And you can see I'm sweating bullets because, you know, in the beginning, in the early part of my career, I was just chasing my passion. I was down for any possibilities of where I could take my career in terms of this online business and everything else. But what I've realized is, I was consulting an individual just a couple of months ago. Like, you know, the more I consult in so many other areas of their lives, the more I realize it's so important for people to understand the importance of their freedom and wealth in this dunya and in the akhirah, tangibly and intangibly, spiritually and psychologically and physically and metaphysically and tangibly and intangibly, materialistically and immaterialistically, and all of these elements, not to philosophize it. But it's important, wallahi, like, we really have to take advantage of these opportunities that are around us and take control. So we can take control of our deen, you know what I mean? So we're not slaves to money. So when someone says, oh, you can't pray because you really have to work, you tell them my deen is more important than this money that you're trying to dangle in front of me. And sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and put yourself in position to be able to get out of that predicament so you could control your life. And it begins early on. It's about the standards and expectations that you set with your employers, I should say, until you transition into becoming an employee, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's a piece of my mind. This is the direction that I'm going to stick to, at least for an episode called Maximized Ridwanullah Freedom and Wealth. That's just to maximize freedom and wealth that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to stick to this episode to the death of me because I realize how important it is for our ummah to be able to learn from a credible source, you know what I mean, both academically and street smart. And I believe you have to combine those two. You cannot be academically smart and forget the street smarts of hustling and getting your grind on and making sure that you get your grind on, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And one last thing I would like to leave with you that's important to understand. There's a lot of people who have psychological strength when it comes to maximizing their Ridwanullah freedom and wealth. But there's a lot of people that do not have the behavioral, actionable maximization of their maximized Ridwanullah freedom and wealth. I hope that makes sense, that it's always important to bridge the gap between the two, because if you don't have the mindset, you'll never have the behavior. The mindset is the key to the behavior, and the more you act on your behavior, they keep fueling each other, and it's like a snowball effect, like the compound effect. So I hope any of these are making sense, is resonating with somebody out there who truly understands. For me, you know what I mean, like, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, my net worth is not where I want it to be, even though it's very far from where it was. My income is actually in the negative, I'll be straight up honest with you. And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, I'm still working towards getting that to where it needs to be. Driving a beater car, you know what I mean, in a job that I'm grateful for, but not ultimately where I want to be. Good environment. I love that job, to be honest with you. I've grown to love it because of what it built me into. It's a sales position, soft sales, and I'm learning a lot of communication and selling and persuasion and everything else that I could learn about the business world, as much as I possibly can in my current position of coordination. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much that I want to do in terms of my education, personally investing in myself to take these courses, take these trainings, and everything else that I have aligned that I haven't had the money to lately, or ever, I should say, for the most part. There's a lot of long and short-term purchases that I want to make in terms of a better car, probably a house down the line, so many things. And then long and short-term spending, meaning going to Umrah, going to Hajj, going to travel the world and seeing so many beautiful places and living the laptop lifestyle. You know what I mean? And also giving as much as I possibly can to my family, my friends, and the ummah, and the globe in general. And also, you know what I mean, just making sure that, you know, I have a lot of fun, just play, adventure. And I know a lot of people don't like that word in terms of when it comes to their finances. They want to be disciplined, but I've realized you really have to have fun with your money and go on retreats and buy what you need and want. and along with while you're getting out of this debt and building your freedom and wealth within the boundaries, rules, and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm very, very passionate about teaching this subject because of the impact that I see in other people's lives and the impact that I've seen in my life. I've had roughly about a $10,000 transformation from the negative to the positive, $5,000 to $10,000, so forth and so on. And what I've realized is having the financial strategic and systematic mindset is not really about how much you make. I know people who are making, you know, over 6 figures or even close to 7 figures, $1 million or so, who are still broke emotionally and mentally and spiritually because they've become enslaved to money. And I don't want to be like that. So I took the time to design and strategically and systematically design a strategic system and build a strategic system for myself that is within the boundaries, rules, and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I could personally use to be able to find the maximize Ridwanullah freedom and wealth, and to live the truly laptop lifestyle, and to travel the world and do all these amazing things that I've been dreaming about. And I hope to do that for you. I'll be documenting my journey and where I'm at with everything, and I'll probably be able to show you these exact numbers in this whole map of maximize Ridwanullah freedom and wealth. This is my passionate plea to you to properly pay attention to your money and take care of it in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu mentioned, that we should hold ourselves accountable before we are held accountable. So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, keep that in mind. I'll be coming with more videos. If you've liked this video, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, sign up to our mailing, subscribe to our mailing list as well. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you've liked this video, press the like button and comment and leave your love and your thoughts and feelings about this if it struck a chord for you. Obviously, if you've listened to this 20-30 minute passionate plea and penetration, then I hope that you've benefited as much as I have. I'm so hungry to be able to present this to you in an Islamic way, with this Islamic personal finance, and hopefully I can find my way into the corporate finance bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. You know, I hope that anything that I've said makes sense, and I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards me and you to be able to maximize our Ridwanullah freedom and wealth in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I personally say Jazakumullahu khair to the Ridwanullah Global family for tuning in to Ridwanullah Global TV, your source for Islamic personal and professional development. I'm your host and life maximizer, Hussein Mahmoud, working to help you through blood, sweat, and tears, to help you maximize every single area of your life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm checking out by saying, never ever ever give up on maximizing every single area of your life in this dunya and in the akhirah by the grace, will, and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.